Wenn ihr euch kurz vorstellen würdet, dann wäre das total großartig.
Genau, ich bin Nico. Ich habe sozusagen das Projekt gegründet. Genau, also ich spiele Keyboard, Mandoline, Gitarre, Synthes und ich bin sozusagen der Leadsänger von dem Projekt.
Ja, ich bin Jordi Kuragari. Ich spiele jetzt bei Biinds live vor allem Gitarren, unterstütze Nico ab und zu auch bei den Studioproduktionen und ja, arbeite sonst halt auch als Musiker und Produzent.
Okay. Wie seid ihr zusammengekommen an dieser Stelle? Also warum sitzt ihr beide hier und nicht, keine Ahnung, irgendein anderer Gitarrist oder so?
Also ich bin vor circa schon 5 Jahre jetzt nach Berlin gekommen. Ich habe eine lange Zeit in Peru gelebt, wo ein Elternteil auch herkommt. Und genau, also ich hatte in Peru ein Projekt auch mit einem Freund und dann, als ich hergekommen bin, wollte ich ein neues Projekt machen. Und genau, und dann habe ich einfach eine Anzeige reingestellt da bei berlinmusiker.de. Und dann habe ich Jordi gefunden und ja, seitdem kennen wir uns.
Ah, okay. Und die Räumlichkeiten, in denen wir uns befinden, die ja unter anderem wahrscheinlich auch ein Tonstudio und so finden, die sind quasi ein freundlicher Zufall, der euch wahrscheinlich irgendwie in dem Projekt zugutekommt, schätze ich.
Ja, Zufall ist jetzt nicht der richtige Begriff. Also ich bin halt jetzt seit dem frühen Sommer, also seit Mai, Juni bin ich jetzt in diesen Räumen mit drin. Kenne den Kollegen, der mich hier ursprünglich vorgestellt hat, auch schon an die 5 Jahre. Das passte mit meinem ersten Konzert damals zusammen. Und seitdem habe ich halt mein Studio jetzt hier, wo ich halt eben meine Sachen produziere, aber eben auch das ein oder andere halt mit Nico produziere, der allerdings auch in seinen eigenen Räumen produziert.
Okay. Das heißt, ihr seid beide nicht in Anführungszeichen nur Musiker, sondern ihr produziert auch noch anderer Leute Sachen und habt eure Finger da auch mit drin oder macht ihr nur eure eigenen Sachen?
Also ich habe bis vor kurzem auch ein bisschen Sounddesign gemacht für eine Firma in England. Und genau, also ich produziere halt auch Sample Packs in verschiedenen Genres. Und also hauptsächlich Sounddesign. Aber ja, also das Projekt, also Biinds ist halt schon mein Hauptprojekt momentan, kann ich schon sagen, ja.
Okay. Wie sieht es bei dir aus?
Also ich produziere verschiedene Musiker, ich spiele in verschiedenen Bands über die Jahre. Da ist Nico jetzt eine der beiden, mit denen ich am längsten spiele, abgesehen von meiner eigenen Band, in der Nico auch eine Zeit lang mitgespielt hat. Und ich produziere, wie gesagt, jetzt seit einiger Zeit andere Leute und ja, okay. Das kann man eigentlich so dazu sagen.
Jetzt das Projekt Biinds mit 2 I's, wichtig. Wenn ich es richtig gelesen habe, ging es darum, dass es da auch darum geht, dass mehrere Menschen darin involviert sind, deswegen das doppelte I. Das ist dein Schoßkind quasi?
Ja. Genau, so kann man es sagen. Also es war meine Idee damals. Also ich wollte einfach was Kurzes haben, was man sich schnell einbringen kann. Da kam dieses Wort to bind. Irgendwie ich habe sozusagen im Wörterbuch geblättert und habe dieses Wort to bind einfach, das fand ich interessant. Und genau, also das zweite I ist halt, das stellt sozusagen das zweite Element dar, was man braucht für eine gemeinsame Zusammenarbeit, so ganz abstrakt gesagt.
Okay. Was war Biinds, als du damit angefangen hast für ein Projekt?
Es war ein Online-Projekt. Also das hat erst angefangen, also ich habe so ein paar Strukturen gehabt von Songs und hatte so ganz große Pläne im Kopf, dass ich halt mit verschiedenen Leuten auf jeden Fall zusammenarbeiten wollte, dass es kein Projekt ist, wo es so richtig 100%ig feste Musiker gibt und die bleiben immer gleich, sondern dass es halt sehr offen ist. Und deshalb habe ich dann auch angefangen, mit verschiedenen Leuten zusammenzuarbeiten.
Warum nichts Festes?
Ja, also ich habe wie gesagt, also noch nicht so weit gedacht am Anfang, dass es jetzt auf jeden Fall etwas sein sollte, was live umgesetzt wird. Also es sollte ein sozusagen Studioprojekt bleiben. Und und dann im Nachhinein hat sich dann doch ein bisschen weiterentwickelt und es entwickelt sich momentan auch immer noch weiter, was eigentlich manchmal interessant ist, manchmal schwierig ist, muss ich sagen auch.
Was macht ein Studioprojekt für dich attraktiv? Also wo ist der Unterschied zu einem Live-Projekt? Oder ist ja auch beides? Also ich meine, ein Live-Projekt ist ja nicht nur live. Aber was hätte dieses pure Studioprojekt für dich so attraktiv gemacht?
Die Flexibilität, könnte ich sagen. Also ich hatte halt die Idee, ich hatte noch nie zum Beispiel mit Sängerinnen gearbeitet. Ich hatte noch nie mit Streichern zusammengearbeitet. Da hatte ich so ein bisschen die Idee, das einfach zu machen und dann habe ich es umgesetzt. Und dann war aber natürlich die Frage, finde ich jetzt auch Leute, die das live machen können. Und das war halt so ein bisschen eine Herausforderung, aber es hat geklappt.
Das heißt, du hast Menschen gefunden, die das mit dir im Studio machen konnten und deswegen wahrscheinlich auch die Flexibilität, weil im Studio sieht man die Gesichter nicht und es können alle Leute sein, solange sie irgendwie deinen Anforderungen vielleicht entsprechen in dem Moment. Ja, so ungefähr. Und wieso hattest du dann Probleme, Live-Menschen zu finden, wenn du schon Leute im Studio hattest?
Die Sache, es war wie gesagt, einfach ein reines Studioprojekt und ja, einige Leute davon waren halt auch gar nicht in Berlin, kann man sagen. Okay. Und die waren dann halt nur, also sozusagen virtuell präsent. Und daher war es halt natürlich erstmal schwierig, wie mache ich das jetzt live, weil ich muss diese Person quasi ersetzen. Also wenn es jetzt ein Sänger ist, dann ist es natürlich noch schwieriger. Genau.
Okay. So, now we switch the language, I think. This is going to be we need like a...
in English or Deutsch or...
Simulcast.
Yeah.
If you wanna come around, then my arm can actually reach you. That would be really cool.
What's the network?
The network.
The broadcast platform.
It's called Alex Berlin. It's No, it's on the I don't know what this pop show's in English.
Pop filter.
Pop filter. Yeah.
Windsock.
That is a nice name. Windsock is a nice name. The thing on when the TV stuff, it's called just a dog, right? Isn't it?
I heard that. Yeah.
In German, it's called just a dog, like the big plushy thing that's over. Yeah. Oh, I don't have that. It's good because it's not windy in here. Let's see. Who are you, and why? What do you have to do with the band thing?
I'm hired help. I started off. I'm Klaas von Karlos. First of all, we met 3 years ago in Berlin. Like I have another project that was kind of similar to Biinds, where it was combining electronic music with also a lot of audiovisual, supplements. And we became friends after I VJ'd for a different gig of theirs. And I started, performing more and more, doing visuals. And then over the past few months, I've also done some like backing vocals for tracks live. And then also some electronic effects here and there. It's like most of the stuff I make on my own is more like experimental. And so I kind of add like little flourishes to the sound.
Okay. Maybe that's a good segue into like the Biinds song always seemed to take a little while to get into something. Then there's some singing, and then it kind of goes away again or stays a bit. How does that come about? Is that a plan from the beginning where you're like, okay, we have set 1 minute where we just do whatever we want, and then we have a set piece of singing, and then we do whatever we want again? How does the whole thing come together? I don't know.
Well,
maybe.
You can answer if you want to.
For the songwriting, you would have to ask Nico because those are his songs. But it works a bit like that actually live, when we perform live, actually from the beginning. I mean, I'm kind of the only one who was there from the first gig on. And there were always those kind of spaces in between the regular songs when Nico had to switch gear, or we just wanted to add another effect, which I usually filled with my guitar. And there's always been this element of improvisation and of long soundscape elements in between structured songs. But for the songwriting, as I said, that's more Nico's area.
Do you plan those into the songs when you write them?
No, I don't think I plan any song. I think it's just like an organic process for me. I'm not really that kind of composer. I'm like writing, I don't know, like musical notes. I don't write like musical notes and then have like a clear structure in my head. At first, I don't know, I think about like, I don't know, a topic that I want to express, and the rest just comes organically. I mean, it's different with every song. I think now one or two of the new songs that are gonna come out are a bit more in your face. They're a bit more direct.
In what sense?
Yeah, like they don't have as much ambient as people would how people would describe it, I guess. But there's, I think one or two songs that are a bit more direct and like that are like on the whole time. They don't have like really super long breaks, and I would probably want to do that more in the future. To have like a bit more of a clear structure. I'm not saying it's maybe a negative thing that this happens sometimes, because like I said, it's an organic process. So for me, it just happens. Okay. I don't plan it.
How do you then keep the things different from each other? Because for me, as I've never been really a musical person, I failed at practicing, and after you fail at that, nothing else ever happens. But well, not really. I still can. I think I can still play Seven Nation Army on the bass, and maybe Bulls on Parade if I'm feeling really good.
That's a good one.
But aside from that,
some fail at those.
Yeah, but like, how do you let it like stay organic, as you said, and still not always repeat yourself or keep it, I don't know, fresh? Because if it just happens without you really, planning it, how does that work? Maybe for you guys as well. I mean, you also make music on your own, and together, how does that work?
Sense. Like, I feel like in a live sense, it kind of works really well for the band, where there are some songs that have more of like a direct pop structure, quote unquote. But then like when there's these elements of ambience and just space interspersed in between, I think it makes everything more powerful. I think you can exist with both. Like for me, I think I suffer from maybe too much like non-linear structure, and sometimes it's fun to play in pop structure because there are limits, and you can really experiment upon those limits, and kind of having borders gives you more creativity often.
Yeah, sure. I think limitations are important in music. So if you can improvise everything that you do, it's kind of like a bit too. Some things can go wrong, I would say. I think there needs to be some kind of structure for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to your original question, I'm on my own when I work. I mean, my own stuff is more like progressive rock music, so there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of actual composing involved. And I do spend, especially for my new album, which will be released probably in January or February, I do take a lot of time for actually composing and intertwining all those melodies and structures that I have. But as for not repeating yourself, that's always a problem when you write, because I don't know about you guys, but I write probably about 4 or 5 times of what I release, because the rest is just double. It's like maybe a different key or a different note here and there. But it's the same for songwriting. Some of the lyrics that I have, some of the songs that I released, I can show you like 5 or 10 times the same song that I've already written, but differently. So in the end, it's a process of elimination and finding kind of the best thing in that area, and always be mindful not to repeat yourself too much. On the other hand, I like to take a musical theme that I have in one song and put it in a different context and in a different arrangement, so that you may not even recognize it directly, but still reuse it. So there's both.
I guess you can only write the one love song that many times, but how's it with revisions? Let's say also maybe because of the lyrics. Do you write them once and then they're done? Do you go over them 200 times and throw out 199 of them, or?
Yeah, I mean, especially now, it's getting a bit more challenging to create things that are actually really good and that stand out. And I spent the last 2 years writing and composing. Yeah, I had some bad experiences with vocals because, like I told you from the beginning, it was an online project. But now I'm kind of trying to focus more on the people that are actually in the room. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a different process. But I think, what am I getting to now?
Throwing songs out.
Yeah, exactly. Space. Yeah, I mean, I thought that I had 10 songs, but now I ended up with 4 songs. So. Yeah, there was a process of elimination in the last 2 years.
Do you decide that on your own, or do you get feedback from other people?
He decides it on his own after getting feedback.
Yeah.
We've all heard 50 versions of every song, and songs that don't exist. Played different versions.
Some of those, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that I'm very picky with sounds and vocals and instruments, so it's a difficult process for me.
How do you keep track of the things that you want to be in one song? Or is it another one of these organic things where it just feels right at that moment?
I think so. I mean, some songs, they work immediately. At least you think they do. Because, I mean, sometimes you have a moment of inspiration, I would say, where you write and record everything in one day. You listen to it on that same day and you're like, oh yeah, this is so great. And then the next day it's like, oh yeah, it's still okay. And then a month later you're like, nah, I'm not sure anymore. And that's how it's kind of that's my process now. I mean, I guess back in the day probably I had more like a gut feeling about things, but now it's a lot more difficult for me to like something that I do.
But actually, at least in my experience, most songs you can only really judge them after you played them for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, my first album is 4.5 years old now, and ever since then I'm working on the second one, so 4 years now, and now looking back on my first album, it's okay, half the songs are really good ones that I will still be playing, and half of them they don't really work that well. But at the time, they worked perfectly, and that's a natural thing. And I mean, when you talk to experienced musicians, they all tell you the same thing. Some songs you just grow out of it, or some songs are just linked to that moment in time, through that year, through that period, and they age very badly, and other songs don't really age. They still feel fresh. And I mean, of course, there's this kind of short-term thing when you have an idea, and this idea feels right even after 2 or 3 months. And personally, I always like to kind of road test my material, I've never been too afraid to play a song live, even though it's not finished, because it feels very differently to play a song on a stage than to play it in a rehearsal room or in a studio.
That's true. Is that, and on the one hand, I would agree with that a song, I mean, I guess you don't write songs exactly, I mean, you talked about the pop structure in a sense, but the songs aren't really written to be the same thing in 20 years, and still they are part of the moment, I guess, that they're made of. But do you think it's a good thing that after a month you don't like the song as much anymore? Or would you rather have it that you do it, you feel good about it, and you can kind of go away from it and do something else maybe? Or is that also a thing that happens?
I think it's not really a nice process. I must admit, I hate it, to be honest. Okay. But in order to grow musically, I would say you have to be your own critic in the end. And the album that I actually gave you, that was the debut album. It took, I think, like 2 or 3 years to make. And it was quite a difficult process because, all the songs went through so many versions. And actually now I think that album is like 3 or 4 years old and I still like it, which is a good sign. And it doesn't happen very often, so that's the one album that I'm proud of now.
Okay. How's that for you guys when you get maybe into the studio and you play one version of it and a week later you play a different version of it? Is that do you go with that just because, I mean, in a sense it's your job, or is it also how do you take part in that process?
I think really it's kind of like staying in the moment and serving the best sound at the time. Like, since there's also been so many different versions of the group, like maybe there have been 3 or 4 different singers, or maybe sometimes there's a violinist, sometimes there's not a violinist, sometimes there's a cello. So I feel like, sometimes there's drums. So for me, in my position, it's more of like seeing what's missing in that moment to find like a space to add another frequency, another color. Okay. It's kind of like, the process of Jordi was talking about, of songwriting. It's very much like painting. And so I think with what we have to do live, a lot of times it feels like painting, whether it's with the vocals, with the guitar, with the violin. It's their structure, but it's still, there's an ambient kind of feeling where everyone kind of contributes their own flavors, their own influences.
It's really interesting because then it's a thing that is never going to be the same again. Because you said as well, there's so many different people attached to it. On the record, but then again, you will not be.
Record and live are always different things.
Yeah, of course,
I mean, but especially with Biinds, not always so much with my own stuff, but with Biinds, I really take the liberty of. I have the spaces where I do exactly what I'm told because it's necessary for the song, but there are also the spaces before and after that where I don't really have to do this specific role, and every night it's really completely different, and I don't know what it's going to be. And sometimes I just like last time we played 2 days ago, and there were some things in there that what I played which I would never have considered to play, but suddenly it felt right, and then I did it, and I probably will have forgotten them in a while, and it's. But then again, that's playing live, and that's playing with an improvisational character, and but back to the process of writing. To me, it's kind of what I enjoy the most. To as I told you, I like taking one composition and putting it in a very different structure. Or even just a thing like speed it up or slow it down. It changes so much how you feel about something. And this is, to me, it's the greatest joy. It's a very long process, and you really need to be able to focus on that. You need to kind of shut everything off that gives you a negative influence at the time. But yeah.
What do you guys write for? Is there a specific purpose? Is it just because, hey, someone's going to listen to it, that's cool? Or what do you write for?
Well, how shall I describe that? I write because that is what I do. This is it has to get out. It's
So you write to tell someone else something that you think is important to you.
This is certainly a point, but it's not really the main point. The main point is it's a bit like painting. Do you paint because you are told to paint something? Do you paint to show someone? No, you paint because most artists paint because they feel they have to get this picture out and have to create it. And that's what I do with music. I feel I have to create this music at the moment. Of course, that communicates something to other people when I show it to them. But there are several songs and several pieces that I write that I keep to myself because they are just for me in the moment. And I don't feel like they communicate enough to other people. So they stay in as long as they are ready to be released to someone else and to tell them something.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain topics that sometimes inspire an album or a song. And I don't know, I just need to get them out. It's not necessarily, I don't think about an audience. I don't think about like communicating love or hate or something like that. It's just, I think for me, it's just like a way of letting my feelings out, as cliche as that sounds. But yeah, I mean, it's just a way of dealing with your own problems as well, I think.
Good. Because for me, I can't remember a time when I didn't write, because originally as a kid I wanted to be like a comic book writer and like a novelist, and so I always had notebooks and I would just scribble lyrics or scribble ideas for comic books or films, things like this. And for me, then the medium just changed. I wanted to study film eventually, and then that led me to wanting to do like live visuals because films take so long. And then that led me to creating music for my visuals, which led to me just creating music sometimes. So I think it was just like a natural evolution of expression and wanting to have like a catharsis. I don't know, I can't imagine really doing anything else.
Okay.
Like maybe when I'm old, I'll just like be on a beach painting and writing poetry, or I don't know.
And
we're just not good at it.
next to that,
You can do it.
who do you write for? Do you write for yourself? Like,
First.
just for yourself. First for yourself, and then do you, in the process of working on the songs, is other people listening to it a factor? Then, okay.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I mean, nowadays, I mean, you're like, you can really share your song when it's done, like the second when it's done, you're like, hey, John, take a look at my song or whatever, or listen to my song and I'll take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, I guess the moment that I'm creating it, not necessarily, but I think then when it's done, you're like excited and you want to share it with somebody. I think that's just a normal thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can recall one lyric that I wrote that I thought, nah, you can't sing that. That's too dark. That's too heftig. You know, it's too awful to actually sing that live. But I think that's about the one. And to me, it's kind of the moment when I feel like I can show it to my close friends, which I'm always sharing my music with. I've got like, I don't know, like 4 people or something who are as close.
Who are calling you right now?
No, not really. It's a colleague from a band who's coming to pick something up.
Okay, so you go.
Yeah, who do I write for? I think originally I write for myself, but in writing for myself, it's more of a, not an egoist thing, but more of a selfless kind of feeling where I'm writing to disconnect from myself and kind of like connect to a humanity where, you know, everyone has these feelings, but no one really wants to talk about it in public. You know, everyone has, you know, their own private emotions, their own private turmoils, but I think in music you can communicate things without even having to be really direct. You can just translate emotions through sounds. And in sharing my music, it made me realize that, you know, other people feel the way I do. It's just a way of really shy communication. It's a great way to like hide and still like kind of like share a message of someone. So it's really cool when someone is into what you do. It makes you feel not alone. It makes you feel not, you know, crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then again, that sharing part, you talked about Biinds in the beginning being a studio project, and then going over to it being also a live thing, where I guess maybe a lot of the character comes from, because you have so many people who do improvise and apparently improvise well together, because if that's not the case, then that just doesn't work. But how does that work together with sharing what you have? Because live, I guess, is very different from just hearing it yourself without seeing the people. Is that also an important part of doing live shows?
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult process to reimagine everything, because there's so many sounds, there's so many textures that some of them just can't be reproduced. I have to be honest. We're getting there, but it's not happening yet. I mean, some of the the electronic elements, or there are field recordings in it and stuff like that you just can't reproduce live. You just have like one hand. Or sometimes, like, I don't know, you can't play two instruments at the same time. And it's difficult, but I think we're making it work. We're still trying to figure it out. But there's actually a live EP that we have where we sort of like sound okay, I would say.
You're so optimistic.
I'm very optimistic, yeah. It was actually an EP that we recorded, I think it's almost a year and a half ago, and I think that it was a pretty good, we captured some of the songs pretty well, I think, yeah.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. There's so many layers that don't really make it easier for you, right? No. Is there ever a thought of going like, okay, how can we make this easier is the wrong way, but maybe more approachable for you guys as well, to make it something that is, I don't know, most people they have their processes and then they take apart things to make it go smoother or something. But is that ever a thought, or are you just fine with the way it is?
I feel like it's a process of always like reverse engineering, where you create one thing in a studio and it's that product, but then in a live situation, when you're dealing with microphones, strings, bodies, pedals, other electronics. I have synthesizers, Nico's keyboards, synthesizers, Ableton. I've got guitar. So it's always a matter of trying to like not clash as well, because there's so many. It's the frequencies. It's so it's interesting. It's kind of like a runaway spaceship sometimes.
A runaway spaceship.
Yeah, that's a good.
That is very nice.
This is an analogy.
Oh. Is it more of a scrappy Star Wars spaceship, or more of a shiny Enterprise spaceship?
It's the Hathaway. You know that one? No, it's a joke. It's hard to say. I don't know if. I think both ideas are a bit too perfected to fit. I think if I would imagine a spaceship, for that it would be a bit more alien, a little bit. Which one?
More like a Mad Max combined with Alien.
Okay.
So like Geiger's penis structures on a huge car. Yeah. That sounds strange. Not very spacey.
Space doesn't need to be aerodynamic, so it's. And neither does this music, so yeah.
Okay. No, it doesn't. I sense that it's not really a goal of you guys to have like this very polished and clean stuff that just goes in and out again, and people are like, yeah, that's nice, and then they move on. We kind of want us to stay there for a while. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, I don't want to like make lounge ambient. That's not my idea of music.
I mean, the elevator here is very quiet. You maybe could.
Yeah, not really. And yeah, I mean, it's difficult to have an impact on people nowadays. I mean, there's so much music out there that you can easily access, and I think trying to make a difference is a challenge, but not impossible, I would say. And I think, we have achieved that. For sure, yeah.
That's very good ending sentence. It feels really bad to ask what more. But you talked about recording new stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is there things on the horizon that you can talk about, that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, I wanted to talk about that, yeah. Yesterday I sent the 2 final songs of the new EP out to get mastered. And I'm not exactly sure when the EP is coming out, a new one. But certainly in the next month. So the EP is called Bloodlines On Ancient Skin. That's the name of the EP. And there's already a new video out where you can actually see us. Yeah. And
here.
And here as well, yeah.
It's a silent music video.
Yeah. I mean, we had like in the past we had a lot of like visuals and visual elements, and we were always like, you weren't really sure who was behind the music, so I wanted to change that a little bit. So we made like a some kind of a performance video, also like with a little bit of an artistic element to it, of course. But the video's out now. It's called Scapegoat. It's on YouTube and everywhere. And and next month the EP will be ready and we'll release it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Then any last words? Anything that I forgot to ask? Anything that's super important that still needs to be
Is there
said?
a date next month, or like just?
No date yet.
Cool.
I mean, but you can follow us on Facebook or I don't know, Tumblr if you have that.
Can I have a copy?
You can, yeah.
Nice,
A
thank
copy of Tumblr.
Can I have a copy of the Biinds album? We'd love a copy of it.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you want an original?
Third generation cassette copy.
Thank you so much.